Kathy Martinez-Renaga to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Our quote tonight, our educational quote, goes back to Aristotle, and that is, "The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet." I'm now ready for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Any discussion? Ready to vote? All right, we are ready for our school highlights, and I see Dr. Anderson voting.
All right, to begin, first of all, good evening. For those who have their first time at our board meeting, last year we started a new tradition in which we start honoring students to start our board meeting off, to put students first. With that, we'd like for Dr. Gordon from McClure Elementary, our National School of Character, to come on down. She will be honoring one of our students today, and let me pull her award out. Here you go. And Dr. Gordon.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to introduce to all of you one of our students at McClure Elementary School, Jamara Benning. She is a lovely young lady who I first became aware of her as a second grader at McClure, and our first project together was creating a video to send to the White House on volunteerism. And she is just a lovely young lady who has done so much with her family in our community, but also as one of our fifth grade leadership students, who we feel exemplifies some wonderful character traits. And as a result of that, she was recognized by the Topeka City of Character last month. So we're recognizing her again here at the board meeting. And it says, congratulations, this certificate is proudly presented to Jamara Benning in recognition of your selection for Keys to Character Award, November 2017. So on behalf of the board and superintendent and everyone, congratulations.
My parents are Jerome Benning and Rhonda Benning. My sister, Jaren Benning.
I would like to ask a question or two of our first Keys of Character winner from McClure.
So, what are your plans?
My plans are to be a pediatrician.
Oh, wow. Very good. Where do you plan to go to college?
I want to go to OU and play softball.
Good for you. Yeah. We'll work on that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can you tell us a little bit about what you love about school and your school in particular?
I like my school because we get to do a lot of extra stuff. Like if we're good, we get superhero celebrations, and I like to learn.
Congratulations, Ms. Benning. So what does character mean to you? You attend a school that's nationally recognized as a school of character. What do you interpret that to mean?
I think it's an honor to be recognized as a national school of character because good character matters.
All right, and at this time, now it's time to acknowledge our Senior of the Month. And I don't know if I asked for the video to be queued up. Do we have a video for that?
There is one.
All right. Well, we know there is one. We don't always show, okay, she said it's on her webpage. She wants that video shown. Well, and maybe we can see if we see the video that we can click to it. At this time, we're going to proceed and introduce our student. Previously, we don't always show the videos. Well, we started doing that a couple times, for the last couple of times, and it's only about 2 minutes of a clip. So I am proud to, first of all, bring up our principal, Mrs. Perry from Highland Park High School, to introduce our student who is also a Superintendent Student Council student who is our Senior of the Month, Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, to Dr. Morrison and our president and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize such an amazing young woman. I was here last year on the night when I was board approved, when Dr. New had the opportunity to recognize the students, so I kind of know what to do. So I already knew what I was looking for. And I found it in her. And I really think that everything in the video is really going to say it all. And that's kind of summing it up, but it's just been a pleasure. I always think about kiddos and not really being on a timeline, but being a ray, having a starting point and then that arrow just keeping on going. And to be a part of that ray along the way, it's just really powerful to have that opportunity to be a part of Kathy's life. So if you would, come on up so that we can present you with your award.
And we will turn it over for her to answer some questions, share your full name, and if there are any individuals that you want to acknowledge from your school family or otherwise, feel free to do that.
My name is Kathy Martinez Reynaga. My parents couldn't make it today. Their names are Martha Reynaga and Reynaldo Martinez. I am here today with my lovely principal, my counselor, and Dr. Duncan.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Woods?
Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations. Kathy, if you wouldn't mind, I guess, telling us a little bit about yourself. What are you studying right now that you like the most? What do you think you want to do when you graduate?
What I'm planning to do is I plan to study chemical engineering. I don't necessarily have a specific college in mind, but yeah, I want to study chemical engineering.
Where do you want to work when you get done?
It's like, it'll also be in the video, but I wanted to combine my love of math and science with art, so I want to work at a cosmetic plant.
Oh, okay. So I asked just because, you know, I know a couple places that hire chemical engineers. And, you know, we're always looking for really good. Oh, we'll do art. Yeah, we will do art for chemical engineers. I think that's really awesome. I love the fact that you've got, you know exactly what you want to do, and you're still keeping it flexible enough that you can go anywhere. So you're a senior. At this point, you know, I won't advise you, I guess, as to institutions to think about. You have a bunch of really good institutions in our state, great engineering programs. I think based off the color of my tie, you probably know which one I think's the best. We look forward to whatever you whatever you decide you want to do. And in all honesty, you probably should keep a place like Western Energy where I work. Because we do, I say that, we do hire a lot of chemical engineers. And with that kind of a background, you can work just about anything. You can work in a power plant where you'd be monitoring emissions and making sure you keep the air clean and keep us all safe. You could be working with different fuel sources. You can do all kinds of things. You can work in environmental services. So, congratulations again, and look forward to seeing what you decide, what you do.
And if you could share the video, it's about a 1 2-minute clip, if that's okay. So we'll go ahead and.
Happy, absolutely strive for excellence. I have an administrative team, you know, the list of our top seniors. Her name appeared on everybody's list.
As soon as I walk into the doors of Highland Park, to me, it just feels like home.
because that's what we are here. We're a family. I would say she embodies the real foundational thinking that demography does not determine your destiny. She's sagacious. She's super talented. She's friendly.
Any other, Ms. Kirk?
Well, you're an amazing young woman, so thank you for choosing to be in Topeka Public Schools, to be honest with you. And I'm also impressed because not only are you a minority student, but you're a woman. And to be in the hard sciences, you know, that's tough. And you're needed. You're needed because you're a woman. You're needed because you're a minority. To show other young people that it's an option for you out there. You can really do it. And I thank you for showing other children that it is possible. You have much to be congratulated for.
Thank you, and thank you for all the things you guys
Oh,
have done.
we're proud of you.
Dr. McCarthy?
Just a quick question. So as Board of Education, we get to make lots of decisions that make changes in our schools. What advice do you have for us? What is it that you like about your school and that was valuable to you, and what do you think we should do differently?
Well, I'm involved in a lot at Highland Park, so that's a really tough question. Because, yeah, I'm involved in like 8 different clubs, so it's hard to say which one. But personally, theater probably helped me the most. It helped me overcome my shyness. And I'm pretty sure there was a meeting about it already, but our auditorium lights are not in their best condition. All right. All I have to say.
So on behalf, not only of myself and the counselors who are here today, but on behalf of all educators who have had an opportunity to be a part of your array, congratulations, and we are looking forward to our December 1st. We will know, because all she has to do now is to get accepted to one of those 4 schools or all of them, and then she'll get to choose. Since we don't know which school she's going to, we can't really get her shirt for that, unless Mr. Woods would have liked to brought her a KU shirt.
Great piece of stuff.
Our awesome senior actually has a twin, and you all know we started the mentoring program where the central office folks are mentoring, and actually her mentor, she's actually matched with Mr. Robbins. So he was all smiles as he prepares to have his luncheon with her in weeks to come. With that, we also have a proclamation, but we want to add that under the superintendent's update because there's a small PowerPoint and presentation in that regard. So I believe that covers all of our highlights. We do have on the agenda American Education Week as a proclamation, which we'll read when it comes under superintendent's update this evening. I believe Ms. Harson is ill, so she's not here to speak under highlights for this evening. And I don't believe there's someone prepared to speak on her behalf. Oh, you guys are prepared to speak on her behalf?
Well, not really prepared, it was just thanking you, so Stephanie's much more eloquent.
Well, and since you all are here, we'll go ahead and do the proclamation now. And then if you would like to say a word or two, you want to come on up? Good educators are always prepared. All right, so for the proclamation of Topeka Public Schools, and in fact, rather than me reading this, would you like to read the first few sentences and the last few sentences or you can read the whole thing. I'll leave it to you.
Okay, proclamation of Topeka Public Schools USD 501 American Education Week, November 13th through the 17th, 2017. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain the nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they custodians or teachers, bus drivers or librarians, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas schools are community linchpins, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common enterprise. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Unified School District 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim the week of November 13th through 17th, 2017 as the annual observation of American Education Week. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting November 2nd, 2017. In witness whereof, we, the Board of Education of Topeka Unified School District 501, do hereby affix the signature of our president and official seal of the Board of Education the second day of November in 2017.
Can we ask all teachers that are in the audience to stand, and or future teachers to stand if you were in the audience? Oh, we know it's the end of the evening.
And I'm Mary Masters, and I teach second grade at Randolph Elementary School.
I think that is all of this time other than our photos. We just need 3 or 4 minutes for photos. So board members, can you come over to the middle? And our senior of the month.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Is there a second?
Actually, I would ask that we uphold the motion with the exception of the personnel report, only because I have family living on there.
So you're going to pull that out, the
Where is that?
personnel report. So our motion is been made with the exception of the 9.1. So is there a second? Okay, any discussion? We're ready to vote. Do
Mr. President, I move that we approve item 9.1 on the disposition of business by consent.
Mr. Williams, second. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Okay, could we have Ms. Johnson come back? All right, we are now ready for a superintendent's report.
At this time, we do have another proclamation. I'd like to ask Ms. Bagshaw to come forward. And we will be bringing up both the PowerPoint and the video. This video clip is 1.3 minutes or something long, so we'll start off with that video clip. Jerry said, I'm not reading that whole proclamation, so if that's okay. Okay. So with that, I'll go ahead and start with the proclamation, and then as the video gets pulled up, and then Mrs. Bagshaw will not only talk a little bit, but share a little bit about their program, which is also captured on the video. November is our Native American Heritage Month. So the proclamation of Topeka Public Schools USD 501, recognizing Native American Heritage Month, November 1 through 30, 2017, whereas Topeka Public Schools wishes to commemorate the sacrifices of indigenous people or the Native American Indians across this great land from the time of immemorial up and including the 21st century. And whereas during the month of November, we take the time to reflect upon the contribution made in the past, to celebrate the peaceful coexistence of the present, and to eagerly anticipate our future. Say that again. Was that the video? I thought that was Miss Kirk. All right. I thought you were going to say, speak up. Okay. And as I conclude these first couple of sentences, I'm going to turn it over to the video for the rest of this. We want to celebrate the peaceful coexistence of the present and to eagerly anticipate our future as we proudly accept the gifts of continually given from the members of the Native American Indians, including students in Topeka Public Schools. With that Native American Heritage Month that we celebrate in November, we have captured a bit of the programs that are so amazing that are done that many people may not know about on the video, and then we'll turn it over to Ms. Bagshaw. Oh, it's just the summer program. It is just the summer program. Ms. Bagshaw said she would accept the proclamation, so on behalf of Topeka Public Schools, we will present with the proclamation, and we'll turn it over to you.
I want people to understand that there's more to education than reading and math. Those are very important and you need them to succeed. But you also need a strong sense of self. This camp is about a cultural component of a federal grant that addresses the needs of Native American students within our district. So we do a lot of the cultural stuff that they don't get during the school year.
I'm Choctaw. When I was growing up, there wasn't opportunities like this for me to express who I am. So with this opportunity, it makes me excited that 501 is willing to share and promote a different group of people. I would say probably my favorite part of this camp is being able to integrate technology into the week. We do a section on language through the efforts of 501 providing technology, and Prairie Band Potawatomi providing an app that has their traditional language on it, words that they might hear when they're walking around the powwows or hanging out in the community, and to just show the youth that there are adults out there who care about who they are and wanting to show them the traditions that we learned when we were younger.
I believe this camp helps these children identify with a culture that they can be proud of. I think it allows them life skills. We teach them about manners and traditions and the old ways. And I think this camp allows them to express themselves in ways that maybe they didn't know they could before.
Thank you both for all of you.
I don't have to flip anything, do I? I can just, okay.
Okay, my name is Jennifer Bagshaw. It's Jennifer, but I've gone by Jenner my whole life. So this is just a very brief synopsis of what we do. This is Amy Miner. She is basically in charge of running the summer program, as you saw. I do the day-to-day throughout the school year, meeting with students, advocating for them, providing support for them. And so I will just briefly, I think you might have all seen this already, yes? No? I don't go through some of the things that we do, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. We are a federally funded program, and every year we have to reapply for the grant. And I think I've said this for several years now, but it's been going on for over 30 years, so it's probably close, I don't know, it's been a very long time, way before I even came. Can you hear me, Mom? No, sorry. Before I even came onto the program. So, but we do reapply every single year, and we get funded based on forms that students fill out and parents sign. And they are called 506 forms, what we call them. They're now Title VI, used to be Title 7. Anyway, they've changed to Title VI forms now. All of our money is dependent upon the number of students we get to fill out forms, and then what the federal government decides to allocate every year per student. So it changes. It's just me. I'm the only one doing it, aside from the summer program with Amy. So it's a little challenging. This is something that's kind of interesting for me, and it makes me feel good, but it's also kind of one of the challenges we have is when you get state data about Native American students and their graduation rate, it's very deceiving because if a student puts and marks any ethnicity other than Native American, maybe they have multiple connections. They're African American, they're Caucasian, and they're Native American. It just jumps immediately to multi, and so it's not accurate for my benefit. Like, it doesn't fit. So I just decided years ago, with the help of the data people here, to go based on just the kids that I have actual forms on that I work with. So we start them as freshmen. I mean, I start with them in middle school, but the cohort is from their freshman year and then when they graduate. And so that is for the kids that I see. So that's where I see the impact. I think it's important, the constant connection with kids. The one thing that is almost always the case is I don't care how many kids you have. One year we had 24, and then in 2016 I think we had only 14. And then this last year I think we had 18 or 19, but there are always like 2 to 3 kids that just either drop out, we don't know where they went. It doesn't matter how many kids start out, it's that number. And so that's our goal, is to kind of hit those kids. So that's when you see graduation rate, it's deceiving. And if you ever have questions, please ask me, because I can show you where it's tough to figure that out. I'm not going to read these to you, but these are the things that we do, particularly me. I guess it's kind of just me now, but you do it in the summer as well. This is how we advocate for our kids, how we support them, things that we offer. I think I've built relationships with kids from the time they are in 6th grade, and I follow them all the way through until they graduate. Sometimes it's very, very challenging, but it always feels good when you know that it's made a difference. Just recently this year, I'll throw in a couple of cool things we did. We took a group of kids to a Native American Leadership Symposium at KU. And it was really, really neat. And then we just went to Haskell and the career fair. So, we're getting them a lot of exposure to things that they may not have had without being part of our program. And I think if you have questions for me, but Amy has a couple things to talk about for summer program, happy to answer.
Do you have any questions? Ms. Bagshaw?
So what do you do? Thank you for all the work you do for Native American students. What can you do? I mean, I realize you're focused on this cohort of students, but what can you do to help them post-graduation for career and college readiness? Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, what do you do?
So, college visits, of course, often help them fill out ACT registrations, the financial aid stuff, trying to hit home with that. We work and collaborate a lot with counselors that are connected, that help, especially the ones that help us meet with kids, that know our relationship with kids. we really hit home Washburn Tech and helping them prepare. You know, they don't want to go to college, but they want to do something. Connecting them to, well, like Electrify Your Future. I've had 2 kids that went was it 2 Fridays ago? They didn't have school and they still went to that. Career fair, just opening opportunities, getting them to meet people in the community, making connections for them, introducing them to people, whatever we need to do. It's nothing specific, but it's lots of different things, right?
Mr. Wood. Thank you. So I certainly echo Dr. Morrison's thanks and all of the work that you do on behalf of our Native American students. It just kind of rubbed my head when I saw your stat and what you've got to go through to try to track to have an accurate count on a graduation cohort.
Right.
Given that, they used to be 100% of the population on this land, and now they're
Correct.
less than 1. So there are very few people whose primary ethnic connection is with the Native American tribe or First Nation people. How, it seems like there have to be tons of folks falling through the cracks.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of kids who are Native American, but for some reason, and it's their right to, they don't want to be connected to. Yeah. And that,
I was going to ask what kind of special things you do to try to get this out in front of parents.
Mailing all the time. I mean, I do constant mailings.
Is there anything that goes out like in mass when people enroll or?
Connections with secretaries when kids enroll. Secretaries in each of the buildings know they have it, and then there's a link on our website, on the district website. So if they don't actually have a form in front of them, they can download it. And the secretaries are huge. I get calls from them all the time. Hey, a kid just enrolled. They say they're Native American. I said, here's a form. If they can't find it, I will scan it to them immediately. I'm like, can I run it over to you? Whatever it takes. It's very challenging.
Or even like something on our TV channel that explains about the Indian Education Program and why this federal grant works, and if you or your child are Native American, please, blah, blah, blah.
Sure. I mean, what at this point it's just been the website, and then word of mouth throughout the district after so many years, and then me just sending mass mailings over. I mean, just bombarding people with it.
Tough. Well, so thank you.
Sure.
We're going through all of that. I wanted to ask, one of the things that you do in facilitating contacts with area tribes, I love the examples of going to the Native American Students Group at KU. I think that's important for all kinds of reasons. Number one, to identify positively with your culture, to see it doing something great, to see it lifted up on a college campus.
Right. Yes.
You can see yourself in that seat, and going to Haskell. But I wanted to ask, do you have anything built into, say, your summer program where students maybe get to, whether you go to any kind of powwow or any of the big allied tribes?
I'm going to let Amy talk about all that, because that would be a yes. They do not, well, I'm going to let you talk about all that you do, but yes. The other thing that, I can give you one quick story, and I had a kid who just enrolled at Hope Street this year. He's a 5th year senior. I'd never met him before. He had been, really struggled academically. He'd been in foster care most of his life. You can imagine the gamut of problems that he's faced. I ran into, he was there, and I was talking to him, and he said, I'm Omaha tribe. And he was almost obsessed with his tribe and learning about it, and his grandfather's big, and I bet you know who he is. But he had no connection to his tribe other than word of mouth from his grandfather, and he wanted to be a tribal member. So finally, we sent in paperwork, and just last week he showed me, he got the letter, saying that he was officially a tribal member, and that just he couldn't believe it. I mean, it was his identity. I mean, he's finally a part of this when he's had no connection to anything. So then when I say working with the tribes, I mean, that's Omaha, so that's kind of local, right? But it's close enough for I'm happy about that. So I think we underestimate that need some of these kids have to have that connection. And we've even gotten a better relationship with Haskell. They've got some new people, and it's been amazing how they've reached out with that and are helping us. So yeah, so it's getting better. So. And I'll let her answer all the powwow tribal, because that's her baby. That's her baby.
Oh, Ms. Johnson.
And I guess I can just wait till she speaks, but I just had some questions too regarding what that process looks like, the facilitation with making those connections, and also how that exposure to that culture is then we capitalize on it after going through a regular school year, because like you said, that's basic to who they are as people. And then we just came back from Summit, so we talk a lot about the indigenous and the fact that every place we settle on, or every building we build is built on someone's land, and just honoring the fact that there was a tribe here, finding out what that tribe is, allowing their ancestors to come to the building and somehow just inform us that, once they were actually here. And I think that just gives you that definition of who you are as a person. So I'm interested in, once we do those discoveries, how that's infused.
And I'll let Amy go from here, but I will tell you, here's how impactful this summer program is for so many kids. And not all kids, some just kind of go through the motions, but I have kids in high school who they still talk about their experience when they were there and how important that was. And in fact, just the Bennings. I mean, there's two examples that we've known forever, and it's just been very important to them. So that's a little bit how it carries over into but I'll let her talk about that. So, any other questions for me?
Ms. Kirk.
Before we start, when you talk about supporting kids, you see students, the high school students,
and
you're seeing students every day. And I know that one of the things, I'm her mother, in case you all didn't know. But so I hear the stories. I know, I embarrass them a lot of her all the time. But I think it's important though, because what I hear from Jenna all the time is the work that she does trying to keep track of kids. Are they in school? Are they, what's happening to their grades? She's looking at this stuff with her students all the time because there's nobody else sometimes looking at that. And she's talking about, most of these kids come from low-income families. The issue of tribal identity and who they are as people is even more critical for those kids than many of our other children. So having somebody in their life who harasses them. Right.
I warn them. I will stalk them from the time they're in 6th grade through their senior year, and I bring candy, so it's okay. They always are fine with that. So. The only thing I wish is that high school kids would email as well as middle school kids, because middle school kids are email crazy. They love it. If I can't see them or miss them, they'll email me. Where have you been? You weren't there. But I'm not going to start Snapchatting high school kids, so I don't know how else to reach them. We're just going to keep visiting them, I guess. So, yeah.
But I think you didn't mention that, and I think that's probably.
No, I do. I go out every day, almost every day. Maybe not every, but almost to multiple places, high schools, middle schools. Meet with kids sometimes on an individual basis, depends on the situation. Sometimes as a large group, just to check in. Hey, how's it going? And then smaller groups that are very comfortable with each other and they're willing to talk openly about whatever's going on, whether it's how do I get a driver's license to, I don't know where I'm going to sleep, you name it. So there's a whole host of things that we deal with.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi. I'm Amy Miner, and most of the time I spend my time at Jardine Middle School. I've been there for 14 years now, 7th grade history, and I love it. The summer program, as Jenner said, is my passion, my baby. Ever since I found out that we had this program and I started working as a teacher and then taking over the role of coordinating things for the summer, it just has grown, and it's just a powerful thing for these kids. As we say in the video, it's a sense of self, and you mentioned that, to have pride in your heritage. And these kids, some of them, they form these bonds. Even though they're at different schools throughout the school year, they stay connected via school email. They Facebook each other, they Snapchat each other, they become their community. And what we do at camp is not arts and crafts. These are traditional items that are being made with the most authentic pieces we can obtain. You'll see like their Pueblo water jars come from a art and history company, and they are historically correct. And the paint that is used is historically correct. And the designs they're given to interpret are historically correct to that tribe. They're being exposed to almost every type of regional First Nation group there is through many things. This year we incorporated cooking. So they learned about traditional native diets, which are much healthier than what they're eating now. We used buffalo. We were able to purchase from Plumley Buffalo Ranch out by Manhattan. We had them come and talk to us. We have a group of Standing Bear Allied Tribe here in Topeka, and they donate their time and their energy, and they come, and several times they do an opening and a blessing with our children. They come during cooking sometimes. They come and drum. They teach them traditional songs, and because they're allied tribes, there are many different tribes being represented. They put on a powwow every year out at Lake Shawnee, and a couple of us teachers are fortunate to go and present for all the kids who come out there in their learning circle. It's just a phenomenal program, and it is so much more than just arts and crafts. Like I said, yes, reading and math go into it when you're cooking. Even the little kids, when they're making traditional necklaces with actual, we don't use plastic beads. We buy the real thing. This year I drilled 32 turtle shells to make authentic Lakota rattles, okay? Broke 3 bits, and 2 of them belong to the museum. And they were great about it. And then there you see our teepee. We do have a teepee, and actually I found out it was actually made by a friend of mine up in Milford, Nebraska. I'm a muzzleloader, the 1840 mountain woman reenactor. And my friend Daddy Don Strings made this teepee. And this group of allied tribes is actually going to come. They want to go to the service center, pick up our poles, and treat them, because it is an old teepee and they are very expensive. The poles are very expensive. They're even going to come and help us put the linseed oil on and do a better storage and fix what needs to be fixed on the poles. And the kids put that up with their help this year. Those kids, kindergartner up to 7th grade, all got in line, helped each other grab those poles, and then they were amazed when they found out that one woman could put it up in the old days. So says a lot, doesn't it? And so it's just a great program. So if you have any questions for me, as you can tell, I get really enthusiastic about it. I love it. So I'm open.
For those Native American women were very hardy.
Yes, yes, they were.
Any other questions? Doctor.
I'd just say thank you for your passion for this, and that I hope you also pull other people into it so the program continues as strongly as it has under your leadership.
We have some phenomenal educators and paras that work with us. Several of them are Native, and we don't count fractions or blood quantum or anything like that, but they are Native, and as Yale said, he had no program like this growing up. So when I met him, he was my math teacher on my team. And he said, oh, well, you do this? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, I'm Choctaw. I goes, but I don't know anything. Since then, he has learned to do loom beading. Right now, we're working on making authentic rawhide hand drums that we'll teach the children next year. So it's a learning process for all of us, and we all pitch in to do it. And we all want to do it as authentically and correctly to the historical past as we can.
All right. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
One school, Topeka West, that's over 90%, but as a district, the 4-year and 5-year rates are above 4% respectively. And we are excited at the almost 30% jump for Cap City. You already knew the improvements, but the improvements have increased since the last time that you saw them. So we have a little packet for you, and we'll give it to you. Similar data as last time, just the numbers are a little bit higher than previous. And I think Mrs. Crowe is now ready.
I've covered the school finance developments from this week, as well as the revenue estimates that were announced today by the governor's office and the consensus revenue estimating group. Before I get to that, there were two things that I also wanted to bring up. Mr. Robbins and I had talked about the Kansas task force that's working on the health insurance procurement and the goods procurement and supplies. That group met on Wednesday. There is a KASB webinar tomorrow where they'll cover what happened in that meeting. So I will send around an update as to what that group has been working on, especially in regard to school district health insurance procurement. And you'll remember that was included as an Alvarez and Marcel efficiency recommendation. The governor included it in his budget at a savings of $47 million for both the supply food procurement and for the health insurance procurement. But the legislature backed that out and put a proviso in the budget for this group to get together and meet. And it is made up of mostly school officials that were appointed by different leaders in the House and Senate. I think this is their third meeting, and this is, I believe, the first meeting where they took up the health insurance issue. The other thing I wanted to point out was announced today. The Kansas Chamber is going to be holding upcoming forums, and education leaders have been asked and urged to provide input at those. There is one Wednesday, November 8th, here in Topeka from 9 to 11 at the Dillon House. And then there are also forums in Overland Park, Pittsburgh, Salina, Hayes, Dodge City, and Wichita. So I'd encourage folks from 501 to attend those forums and provide input to the Kansas Chamber. Okay, so on Monday, the Legislative Coordinating Council met. This is the group made up of legislative leadership that meets when the legislature is not in session during the interim, when we're not in regular session. So they're able to make decisions on behalf of the House and the Senate while the House and the Senate aren't in session. As to school finance, Speaker Ron Reichman from the House proposed the creation of a select committee on a comprehensive response to the school finance decision. And as you know, the Gannett decision came down in early October. The Supreme Court ruled against the state in that lawsuit on both adequacy and equity. So they have given another deadline, again of June 30th, for the legislature to respond, and they have asked for briefs to be delivered by both parties on whatever the legislature comes up with by April 30th. So what they have done, what the LCC did on Monday, was put together this select committee. They assigned 3 days for the committee to meet, and it will be made up of 11 members, 6 from the House and 5 from the Senate. 4 Republicans will be appointed by the Speaker, 2 Democrats by the House Minority Leader, 3 Republicans will be appointed by the Senate President, those will be senators, and Senate Minority Leader Anthony Hensley said during the meeting that he would appoint himself as the Senate Democrat on the committee. They will meet 3 times. They have not announced the dates yet, but they will meet 3 times before January 8th. January 8th is when the legislature convenes again into regular session. It will be chaired by a member of the House. They will review and analyze the Gannett decision. They will identify responses available to the legislature and consequences of each of those responses that they come up with. And they'll also explore options to reduce or eliminate the perpetual cycle of conflict over school finance. So there was some discussion during the meeting that this has been a recurrent, decade-long battle over school finance, and many of those in leadership are hoping that this group can use part of their time to find some way to bring this to a final end as far as funding and school finance. Now, in Hall Talk, we've all heard the $600 million number. It seems that most people are thinking that the $300 that was allocated during the 2017 session got us halfway there. So we're looking at another $300 million that would need to be allocated in 2018. And we have some good news on revenues that I think will help us get closer to that watermark as far as funding for the next year. You'll remember the legislature overrode the governor and finally reversed the tax cuts from 2012, but we still have a long way to go to get back onto sound footing as far as our state budget. So what this committee will do, they're acting as fact finders. They will gather information, compile the options available to the legislature, and then identify specific matters that they will then forward to both the House Standing Education Committee, School Finance Committee, and the Senate Select Committee on School Finance. So those are the two committees that will take that information and then work from there during the regular session. Aside from this, there was also a $400,000 proposal by Senator Jim Denning to, he's the majority leader in the Senate, to hire former Senator Jeff King, who is a Republican from Independence, an attorney. He served as counsel to the full legislature last year. So the proposal was $100,000 to hire him as counsel, $100,000 to hire a separate counsel for the House, and then $200,000 for a total of $400,000 in expenditures to hire an identified counsel, to hire an expert witness who would also put together a study on adequacy and bring that forth to the legislature during the regular session. That proposal failed. It did not get the 5 votes necessary to pass. The 2 Democrats, minority leaders, and Don Heineman, who was the majority leader in the House, voted against it, and so that $400,000 request failed. I imagine it will be revisited in December when the LCC meets again. So, are there any questions about any of this stuff?
I think Mr. Woods is just chomping at the bit here.
I know, I can see.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe. Thank you, first of all, thank you for all the good work under the dome. I know it'll be a tough place to be and to get things done. We really appreciate what you do for us there. A couple of quick questions, I guess, just for my memory, so I know. I know we've switched to the 2-year, biennial budget. Where are we in that process? Is this the year that we can expect to see a new budget put together from the governor's office?
It will go in tandem with the election cycle.
Okay.
So this is the second year of the biennial budget.
I couldn't remember.
So the governor will still put together a budget based upon the revenues and any modifications that would be made to last year's budget. And then he'll put that together in December and then present that sometime during the first week of the session, whichever governor.
So is this 2 budget thing real, man? If every year they gotta come back anyway because you got new revenue estimates and new data then? That's an editorial question probably too, so you probably shouldn't answer.
With the improvement in revenues, I think it probably is going to work more like it was supposed to.
Yeah. Okay. Quick question on so when I look at this and I think about trying to put an end to the perpetual cycle, which I don't really see as that perpetual, and I'm not really all that puzzled by what it takes to put an end to it because, I think about this and I look at all of the studies that they have already commissioned. I go all the way back to the Alvin Myers study, which said at that time they needed to put $900 million in. They then had Dale Dennis in the Department of Education do a study, which said like $895 million. They passed their own bill that was rejected by the court. They had a special session that put $300 million in. They then had LPA do one. LPA said, well, with that $300 million, you still need another $600 million, which added up to the $900 million from the previous 2 studies. So they went ahead and they did 466, and that got them far enough along the way for the court to say, okay, we're releasing this, you guys have done your job. Now, we're going to do another study. They want to spend $200,000 on another type of Myers private outside study, as opposed to having legislative post-audit do it again.
I think it would be more dedicated to paying an expert witness who would
Say what they
be
want.
kind of the study expert and
Would they
present.
engage legislative post audit at all?
That I don't know, they didn't have a scope. They actually didn't have a scope for
Okay.
any of these expenditures or positions.
Okay.
But that is a new, the expert witness idea is a new one, as well as the second attorney to represent the other chamber, as opposed to having one attorney representing both chambers.
Well, so with all of the studies that we have, and just going back over the years, I heard a figure the other day in the news was interesting. The legislature at this point, I guess, is over 12.
Right.
Every time they've gone forward in one of these cases against the plaintiffs.
I think there was an analogy to firing the coach if that were a sports
Yeah,
team.
you know, and the athletic director and some other folks. But to me, it seems pretty simple, basically, you know, how they could fix that, and hopefully we'll see our other districts and other folks start to make a little bit more noise about what needs to be done to go ahead and fix this. Per pupil, you know, funding formula that's based on student needs. And this is back to where the direction we were going.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the court pointed out was just the fact that the legislature said it was the base for 2018 should be funded at 4080, and they funded it at 4006. So I suppose even if they have an expert witness making the case, the legislature still isn't following its own plan.
So I mean, the other thing I guess I'd ask, as nimbly and as you can say it, I'm curious, when I look at the dollars that are out there, $300 million of they think that's what it's going to take, and there are dollars that they're now actually, you know, bringing in terms of revenue over estimates. It seems like it'd be a doable thing, given that we resolved the equity question 2 years ago with just $40 million. That was a ton of money. It seems like the thing that runs the dollars figure up is when they add all the sweeteners, and it takes to get votes from certain regions of the state where they don't really need any money. They just need their votes. So.
Yeah, the court came back with the new package that they received with the adequacy and said that there were issues with the equity that had come up because of the work that was done on the adequacy, that unraveled the equity that they had approved before. So
put extra money in for property wealthy districts.
The capital outlay was a major piece.
So is there any talk, was there any talk at the committee on how they get at that, or did they even get it?
They did not talk, that it was not a policy discussion. It was a planning discussion, and it had to do with creating the select committee, what that committee would look like, and then likewise the consideration of a proposal to hire counsel and expert witness.
Very last question, have they, besides Senator Hensley, have they decided who Representative Ward, who Leader Ward would appoint?
That I don't know. I have not heard what, Representative Ward was in DC this week after that, so I have not heard who he plans to appoint. I would imagine that the Speaker will appoint Larry Campbell, who's the chair of the House K-12 Education Budget Committee, to chair this group since he will be running the Special Committee on Education and School Finance during the regular session. And he's been the legislator that has been at the helm on the House side. And then probably Senator Denning on the Senate side as the lead. The House will chair the committee, so it would be Representative Campbell from Olathe who would be chairing this body as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much again for all the good work you're doing, and I look forward to, I guess, the 3 meetings I have between now and January the 8th.
I have the revenue estimates up next, unless.
That's what I was asking. So go.
Okay, I have a second slide. There it is. Today at 4:45, the governor's office released the revised revenue estimates for 2018 and 2019. They do this in April and in November of each year. Then also each month, at the end of the month, count the receipts and compare that to the estimates that they set in April and in November. So what this does is look back at what was said in April, look at what has been happening since April, and take that into consideration in predicting how things are going to look between now and April of 2018. So the news was good. I don't think I've said that to you all for years, yeah. The overall estimate was increased by a combined $229.5 million, so that's for 18 and 19. Total taxes are up by about $225 million, and other revenues were increased by about $5 million for the 2 years combined. For 18, the estimate was increased by $108 million. It's a 1.6% increase. Overall, it's 7.5% above the final 2017 receipts. So that's good. And those of you that are familiar with the budget, 7.5% is the ending balance that's set in statute that hasn't been abided by in years. But that shows that we are getting back to more sound financial footing. That's for 2018. And 2018 fiscal year ends June 30th, which again is also when the school finance work is to be done, or the schools will be closed. For 2019, which begins on July 1st of 2018, the revised estimate is $121 million above the previous estimate. That's 1.8%. The overall estimate was a 0.4% decrease under 2018. So they're looking at a decrease because of other revenues. They had decreased those by 1.1 million. The long sheet was not out yet, defining what these numbers mean for a deeper dive. So if you want more information on that, I can get that once I'm able to take a look at the long sheet that was released by the budget office. So what this means is for 2018, we have about a $280 million ending balance, and for 2019, they're predicting about a $355 million ending balance. And this is obviously an improvement over years like last year where we had double-digit ending balances, or negative. So this is definitely good news, and does give an indication that the legislature will have the funds necessary to address the Supreme Court's directive as to school finance, and be able to fund the budget that they passed last year.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, we do want to share that superintendent agenda, which is similar to previous. However, it highlights in a different format what we've been able to do with the funds we have had so far. So we'll be keeping you posted about the luncheon, and it really is just the superintendent sitting with legislators, talking about the future and some of our needs.
Does that conclude the superintendent's update? Okay. We have one action item, and I see Mr. Minke up in the audience.
Evening, board. We're coming back, I think, with some pretty good news. Mr. Barnberg was here on September 21st, and we talked about doing some refinancing of our 2014A bonds. The bond market stayed very favorable to move forward, and so I think Greg's got some good news for us tonight. So I'll turn it over to Greg.
Good evening, everyone. Greg Barnberg with Piper Jaffray, and we serve as a financial advisor to the district for your bond issues. And as we talked about in September, we had an opportunity to capture a savings in the bond and interest fund and lower the interest expense or your debt service payments on the outstanding bonds. And at that point in time, we had shared with you an estimated savings of about $370,000, and that was a result of dropping the interest rate from 4% to 2.34% on a select portion of the outstanding bonds. And As I shared with you in September, when we look at a bond refinancing, we don't have to refinance all of the outstanding bonds or the entire bond issue. We can go in and look at a portion of the bonds. And anytime we start that process of looking at a bond issue, we'll look at does it make sense to refinance all of the bonds or certain years, and then even take it a step further and determine would it be beneficial to intentionally refinance less than $10 million, because in doing so, if you issue less than $10 million in tax-exempt securities or bonds during a calendar year, the IRS allows you to designate those bonds as bank qualified, and that's a tax treatment that allows the interest rates to be about 0.25% and maybe as much as 0.5% lower when we're completing that refinancing. And so we looked at the outstanding bonds from several different perspectives, made a decision that it was the most savings and the best approach for the district to refinance just $10 million or less during the calendar year 2017. So once we had developed that recommended plan of finance for refunding a portion of the outstanding bonds and had your permission to move forward in the form of the authorizing resolution, we then worked with the rating agency to request a bond rating be assigned to this issue, and pleased to report that Moody's affirmed the district's AA3 rating. I may have shared with you before, and I'll mention it again, you should be very proud of that rating, as not many school districts climb into the AA category, and so that's favorable in Kansas and even favorable nationally, and helps us. Your financial management is reflected in that bond rating, helps us get the low interest rates and capture the savings for your taxpayers. So once we had the rating released and we took proposals from potential underwriting firms to handle the resale of the bonds to investors, we then finalized the preparation of the preliminary official statement, which is a disclosure document given to investors. And then we watched where interest rates were at and the estimated savings, and made a decision that the savings was better than what we were originally looking at. So on Tuesday of this week, we moved forward and completed the bond sale. Bonds were offered to investors during an order period. The final interest rates were locked in. And the good news is that as a result of that favorable interest rate environment, the savings to the district, and this is net of all costs, and the actual amount you save is $530,050. So a nice increase from where we were originally looking at, of that $370,000 that we had shared with you in September. And that, again, with the bonds we were refinancing had an interest rate of 4%, and a slight reduction from where we had started, and we ended up with a final interest rate of 2.24% instead of the estimated 2.34%. So a small change in that interest rate made a nice difference in the amount of savings for the district. But the other thing too, and keep in mind, the savings is in the bond and interest fund. These are not operational dollars that get freed up for the district. And this is not the first time that the Board of Education has taken action to capture a savings in that bond and interest fund, which becomes a savings for the taxpayers. You've completed bond refinancings in 2004, 2005, 2007, and now 2017. And when we add the $530,000 in savings that it was locked in this week, it brings the cumulative savings from those prior bond refinancings to $6,790,885. So that is a lot of money that stays in the district rather than being paid out to bond investors. And this just helps capture an additional amount of savings for the taxpayers. The interest rates that are presented this evening are final interest rates. They're available for your consideration, and if you should decide to move forward and complete the bond refinancing, the action that you would take would be the adoption of the bond resolution. The bond resolution is prepared by your bond attorney, Nichols and Wolf, here in Topeka. And the first step that you took, the authorizing resolution, gave us permission to start working on the issue. Now and that wasn't binding, it just gave us permission to start. The bond resolution would actually be a binding step. It would lock in the savings and the new interest rates and allow us to work towards a closing a few weeks from now of the refunding bond issue. But I did want to also share, while I'm here with you this evening, what may be a second potential opportunity, and I had mentioned that there's that IRS designation of 10 million or less during a calendar year. If interest rates should remain at or close to their current levels, and as we get closer to 2018, which now isn't so far away, we had looked at another portion of the outstanding bonds that would be 10 million or less, and this would assume you don't have any plans for additional bonds or bond elections next calendar year. But if you were to move forward with a bond refinancing that would be potentially could be completed as early as sold in December with the closing held in 2018, and it's the closing date that would count towards the annual allocation. That savings would be about $497,650. So not only do we have the news of the final savings today, but a potential additional opportunity for you to think about if it's something that you wanted to consider moving forward with. And that $497,000 would be in addition to what you've locked in today and previously. So with that, I'll stop there and be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
To do the rest of the savings that you just talked about, would we go through the same process that we did this time, giving you permission and then a resolution that we have right now?
Right. It would be the same steps from the board perspective. First, if it's something you wanted to do, you would give us permission to work on that. And similar to this issue, if we were to start working on it and the interest rates get away from us and the opportunity goes away before we could get that locked in, then we just simply would either wait or abandon the idea. But if we could get a level of savings that made sense, then we would come back to you at a later date with the bond resolution for that second opportunity. It gets to be a little bit simplified in that we wouldn't have to go through the rating process again, and some of the documentation is fresh, so it'd be fairly easy to roll right into that additional opportunity. But it would be a similar process, yes.
Question?
Mr. Conlon, it's so good. Saving money is good. And this is a wonderful opportunity for taxpayers. And thank you.
Thank you. I do recall the parting comment at the September meeting was that this is good, but we know you'll come back with something better, so I don't want to pressure you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. I'm ready to take a motion for the action item. We have a motion and a second for the resolution, action item 20.1. Ms. Johnson. Do we have any discussion on the motion? We're ready to vote. Okay. Yeah, I think, is there something that, Mr. Mickey, is there something we need to do?
I was just chatting with Greg, and I think we'll see you next board meeting with resolution 1709. Carlene loves bond refinancing. She loves the paper that's involved, and Dr. Morrison, you're going to get a real appreciation for that here in a few minutes as well. So I'll wait and see if you thank me in the morning, as you are right now. But my intent, with the superintendent's approval, the superintendent's approval is to bring back 1709, allowing a similar process to occur. Have our bond counsel, Piper Jaffray, Greg, and his team watch that market, and if it turns favorable, as is very favorable, we come back with another refinance proposition for you to
be passed in 2018.
We would probably bring that to you in December, the sale resolution, but the actual.
So then you
basically the
start selling.
consummation, like this order will end up being done November 21st. November 21st. This next series of bonds, we could have them approved, lined up, ready to go. They'd be consummated in 18, so we meet that requirement. As long as you're closed in 18, you can only do the 10 million in a calendar year.
Quick reminder, next meeting is the next Friday meeting. No executive session, hopefully 45 minutes.
That first resolution's pretty quick. Yeah, we can make that pretty painless.
And you'll bring that before the budget committee, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now ready for board member comments. Mr. Wade? Dr. Nicholson?
I was absent last meeting, but since that meeting a month ago, I wanted to thank the board for allowing me to attend the NUFSED conference. I imagine Ms. Kirk and Mr. Williams gave a report, but a couple of highlights. And one, Ms. Kirk had made this acquaintance a couple years ago when the meeting was in Kansas City, the North Kansas City School District. I don't know if you reported on that 2 weeks ago, how they have, and Missouri funds their summer school differently, but they identified their 2 lowest performing elementary schools and extended their school year, I think, by 30 days. And now they're 2 highest performing elementary schools. So it's still relatively fresh data, but they didn't want to report on it yet, but they spoke positively about the importance of kids being in school, so it made an impact on me. And then last meeting, I had the privilege to visit the U.S. Naval Academy with my son and wife, and we met up with a former Topeka Public Schools student who's now a midshipman there. She is in her 3rd year, and a teacher at Topeka High made a connection for us, Madeline Kershaw, who I think some of you remember. She's excelling as a midshipman. She's grateful for her education she received at Topeka Public Schools, Topeka High graduate. She hopes to be an aviator. In her interview, she had to identify a role model, and her role model was Amelia Earhart, I think appropriately as an aviator. But so she's doing well and wishes us well. So that was fun to do also.
Ms. Johnson?
First of all, I'd like to thank our finance department under Mr. Roberts' leadership, and this is such a good position for us to be able to capture the savings that we heard here tonight. Appreciate your guidance and leadership through that process. And also definitely appreciate Mr. Beresberg for his diligence in making some of those things. Also, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. New and the whole team that put together the summit that we had around this board. Some of our students, and give us some feedback as to the service they receive here and what they do in their education here, and what can be better, but what they also celebrate. I look forward to the opportunity to meet and brief from that, from what we gained through that process, as we never did our equity council.
Mr. Wood?
I just want to thank, I see Rod sitting out there. You must have said something to the people at the sports park of Kansas, our sports complex out there, because they finally took care of the shredded cover. It looked so awful. I don't know if any of you have been out there, but it was flapping in the breeze, and every time I went by it, it would make me angry. So it was not doing anybody any good because it had all these holes in it. They took it down finally. It looked so nice, so thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope that Mr. Robbins made a note of what our young student of character, our Highland Park Student of the Month mentioned about the auditorium. I'm assuming he has that written down.
I'm afraid I don't, Ms. Kirk, because we were already addressing that.
Oh, you're ahead. I figured as much. Well, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple of announcements. And Our next meeting, as was discussed, will start at 5:30. We'll try to run 45 minutes, and then if you give your RSVP to Ms. Lister, if you want to go support Sarah Sharp at the 20 under 40 banquet. Got it? Oh, okay. The other announcement is about Community in Schools is having a reception with heavy hors d'oeuvres. We are getting an award. We're getting an award, and everybody is invited, but we need to RSVP. It is Wednesday, November 15th, 5:30 to 7 at the Governor's Row House. So if you'd like to go and see Dr. Anderson receive an award for us, please come. I've got several emails. I've sent it over to Ms. Lister and also Ms. Kruger. Yes, both of them. So if we need to RSVP just to tell them how many people are coming. So if you're interested in going, just let one of those two know. And November 15th, 5:30 to 7.
It's on the calendar, just the place in here, seats. And if you can't go, I'm sure there will be many, many awards over the course of the year that you can partake in attending outside of that.
A reminder, Dr. Mickelson is DCAC rep. And with that, I'll take a motion for adjournment. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Johnson.
She blames me.
She wants to continue meeting.
Maybe you go to this one?
We are adjourned.